Hello, welcome to another edition of the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's. Glad to have you along with us. The old gang back, Big John Milkowski, St. John's Radio Network, official scorer, and all kinds of stuff downtown.
Everything else.
And Marty Bin, antagonist, Fairway Mortgage, still Fairway Mortgage.
Knock it off. Knock it off.
Just checking.
Let's get right to the segment because I want to know why John.
Well, first I want to thank everybody out at Matthews Ford and everybody who showed up to what ended up being a terrific event at Matthews Ford last Saturday, and our Powerbomb Wrestling show. And we had more than twice as many people as we had chairs. So
that's a good problem.
That was a great problem to have. So
the turnout was great. The food trucks were great.
There was between 400 and 500 people that came out in the heat and to sit on the asphalt to watch wrestling.
And it was hot. It was hot. Let me tell you.
We got a little lake breeze going, so that helped us out.
A little bit in the second half, yeah.
It helped us out a little bit, but big thanks to Jeff Thomas, marketing guy, and of course Tim Matthews and Reese Daly and all that, and it ended up being a fun day. So, all right, let's get at it. This broke after we taped last week, and I'm kind of glad it did because it's taken some little metamorphosis. We've found some additional things after the first day, but the title of the segment is Why Big John Hates Urban Meyer.
Before we get into that, can I ask you guys a question? Because I really wrestled with this as this story unfolded. I thought the correct response is when you're not liking what might happen are no comment. I've been encouraged not to comment pending the investigation, or absolutely tell the truth. Right? I thought those were like everyone knew in coaching now. The three choices were say nothing, say you're not allowed to say something, or tell the truth. Apparently, that word has not gotten around to coaching staffs everywhere that these days everything comes out.
Well, and I have to preface this. I am a Michigan fan, but that has nothing to do with my feelings on this. I knew it was going to come up. I knew I was going to have to address it right away because it's going to...
Like the Free Press's little article was completely...
But I'm an Ohio State fan, and I got to know Urban Meyer when he was here.
Right.
So,
but any Michigan fan on social media who says anything just gets annihilated. I just putting it out there. I am a Michigan fan, but I'm looking at this like it could happen anywhere, not just at Ohio State. I mean, in my view, if one of two things: if he knew, then he should be disciplined. I'm not going to say fired anymore because we don't know what all happened. But if he knew, he should be disciplined. If he didn't know, he should still be disciplined. Because if you know and don't report it, that's one thing. And if he doesn't know what his staff is doing and what the guys who are around all those kids are doing, that's an issue too. Because, I mean, come on, you've coached enough and stuff. And in college, you've got 15 assistants that you need to keep track of. And if they're getting, I'm not babysit, because I've seen that come up too. Not babysit, but if you got a guy getting arrested like this, and obviously he knew that he'd been arrested at least twice, then you got to know.
To me, there's so many layers to this. We've talked about the young man who pitched, who did his time and whatever else. I think it's hard because if you hear any side of the events and you hear the he said, she said that goes on and is currently going on in this, to me, it's almost embarrassing to me that we're talking more about the urban side of the story than we're talking about what actually happened, because what actually happened is more important, and we need to figure out a better way to deal with it, because the wrangle of the whole thing is that none of us were there. It was a closed door. I mean, there are so many of these things that go on that no one, I mean, do you know what went on with Zeke Elliott? Because I don't. I mean, no. Right? I mean, we sit here all the time on this show and talk about how we don't know and if somebody's done their time or whatever. And it's hard for me because I'm not going to play judge and jury on what went on because I don't know. And so for him to play judge and jury stuff, so the question isn't whether he did the right thing, it's whether he followed the right protocol to allow the right thing to happen. And I don't know that anyone knows the answer to that yet because it's still hanging out there. I mean, the fact is, had he not lied, this is a much lower level story. Oh,
absolutely. And his excuse that, well, I didn't know that question was coming, I wasn't prepared for it, is ludicrous.
Well, I go back to what I said. No comment. until the facts are out, I don't want to say anything or tell the truth.
Well,
and he clearly didn't follow those three things and didn't tell the truth, and he should face, I'm with you that he should face some discipline. I don't know that I have any grounds for termination at this point in time, but I'm not saying I couldn't come around to where that's, I mean, as the story unfolds. But the fact is he looked at the camera and told something that was clearly not true, and there should be consequences for that.
Well, and it's almost like he's excusing his lying because, well, I wasn't prepared for that question. Well, so what? You're going to have every reporter hand you the questions they're going to ask you beforehand so you can, yeah, okay, I'm ready to answer those.
You haven't been to a press conference at a major college program anymore. Trust me, that's about how it goes.
Well, still, you have to be prepared.
I'm just waiting. If I had a nickel for every time a coach lied in a press conference, I would be retired.
Right, we're really preparing for this team this weekend.
My first thought was, oh, he lied to the media? Oh my God, stop the presses. My first thought of the whole thing was, why isn't the guy in jail? Not Urban Meyer, the coach. Why is he not in jail?
Well, because everybody kept going and asking her not to press charges because it would lead to something like this.
But there's another side to that, and it's the Ray Rice. I can't think of her name now. Side of it, I think there's a pull and tug because the other side is, at whatever point in time that's going on, you don't want to have your lifestyle impaired, and so that's part of why this is such an insidious, woven
See,
problem.
that's where it starts getting really touchy. That's when
Right.
this whole thing starts getting really touchy.
Right.
Because if you go into that, then you're accused of blaming the victim.
I'm not blaming.
I know.
I'm not. I'm just saying. But you asked how that could happen, and I think part of what happens is people say, "Well, I want this to happen, but I don't want that to happen." It's a sticky mess in the middle.
There is times where everybody's wrong.
Right.
Not one side is right and one side is wrong. Sometimes everybody's wrong.
Well, I mean, my favorite part of this is that all the Ohio State fans are saying, you can't do anything until we find out all the facts. We need to find all the facts before you say he's guilty. But yet they have a rally yesterday saying that he's innocent, proclaiming that he's innocent and he should come back.
Well, he's won a lot of football games.
So I know that, but I actually saw a poll on Twitter, which I know is not scientific and has all kinds of problems. But it asked, if you're an Ohio State fan, are you embarrassed or encouraged by this rally? 95% said embarrassed.
I was embarrassed.
Because I mean, blaming, and to show you how little these people had looked into this, they blamed ESPN. Blaming ESPN for the SEC problem.
Well, had they not fired the guy would have
work for ESPN.
Exactly. The other guy, he would have had more things to do had they not fired him, so it's ESPN's fault.
ESPN sat on this story for 5 hours.
All right, we have to take a break. Much more on this. We just started on this. We'll be back. Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.
Matthews Ford Oregon is the dealership that makes a difference because we now offer guaranteed credit approval. We know what's on paper doesn't always reflect the person in front of us. That's why we work with over 40 lending institutions every day to help find solutions, and in some cases, we've been able to help folks looking at pre-owned vehicles drive away in a brand new one. Remember, we're here to help, not to judge. Ride on our reputation as the name that's been trusted since 1952.
That's the Matthews way.
Hey, Mortgage Marty here from Fairway Mortgage. New office is open at 5577 Monroe Street in the Promenade Shops. And those of you that watch know how competitive I am, so here's my challenge. The large national company you always see at every sporting event from up north who has that Rocket app that I hate, we have a competing app called the Fairway Now app. And the best part of the Fairway Now app is you get actually somebody local to help you after you use it. So log in, try it. It's on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find us, the Fairway Now app. Have a great night.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Red Wing Shoes, a quality built to last, just like the legacy of service at your Red Wing Shoes dealer, North Reynolds at Bancroft in Toledo. Family owned and operated since 1982. 4 generations building a legacy of quality and service for years to come. Our sales staff has over 95 years selling and servicing Red Wing shoe products, and we have the largest selection of Red Wing shoes in Northwest Ohio. Irish Setter, Works, and our USA-made heritage shoes. In stock, no waiting. Red Wing Shoes, North Reynolds at Bancroft, where service, quality, and fit come first.
And back we are at the Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. All right, we'll dive back in. We were talking about this all during the break, of course. I didn't get any really. I don't think there's been, like you said, enough focus on the guy who actually perpetrated this. If you believe the text message that she had, bringing up choking her, and not denying it on the text, just saying, I know, I'm sorry. Pretty damning evidence. If the picture she took of the bruises and all that, that's plenty for the police. And quite frankly, police don't have to have the victim press charges.
In most areas, it specifically prohibits that from being a ground for deciding to charge. That once it's reported, they have to pursue it as if the victim's not involved.
So I don't understand why he's not in jail. For life of me, I don't get that part.
If you're in Powell, Ohio, are you going to do something that upsets the apple cart at Ohio State? I mean, they have, there's 2 different police reports on the same incident.
So that's like asking why there are 3 people on the board of trustees who are independently investigating the whole thing. I mean, please stop being rhetorical here.
And why give yourself
it's between 11 and 11:30. I think most people have,
Well, we're starting to get into conspiracy things here.
Well, no, but they say we're gonna have this done in 2 weeks. Well, what if you don't have all the information yet? I mean, why put that date and say we're going to be done by now?
I don't know why it would take 2 weeks, personally.
Well,
Did Urban Meyer know?
My whole thing is
did he report it to Gene Smith?
There's a box to check there, and if he did, then it just goes up the chain of command.
And as far as I'm concerned, then he's done. As long as the guy's not arrested.
I followed the procedure, and I mean, okay. So it's hard for me on this because I think no one has brought up, because it's a really slippery slope, the accurate comparison, which is something that happened in Pennsylvania.
I was just going to bring that up.
I mean, and I know that's uncomfortable because one is.
I don't think they're comparable at all.
But they're comparable. They're comparable in that the coach in question didn't do the crime. So the question is he covering for someone who did some horrible things? And then we get into the degree of horror is what we're now talking about.
Right. Penn State one was on campus, first of all. Well, so I think that's a huge difference.
But there's a Title IX side to this.
Urban's got no way of, on this issue, no. Because there's already been a Title IX lawsuit in Colorado that basically, since it was not on campus, therefore the university was not held responsible.
But it's in his contract that if he knows, he has to report.
Right.
Which is
what I started the segment out as. Did he tell Gene Smith like he said he did?
And I think Marty and I've made the same comparison. We're not comparing the crimes that happened at Penn State and Ohio State. It's the fact that Joe Paterno knew, he reported it, and then just said, "I'm done." And Urban did the same thing apparently. So what is the morality? I mean, so legally and according to his contract, that's all he had to do. But what is the morality of still having those, in both cases?
But see, I'm really uncomfortable when the police won't press charges and it doesn't advance any farther than that. I'm very uncomfortable with that. I'm very uncomfortable with people being, in a sense, convicted without any kind of due process. I'm not comfortable with that. And I know people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I am not comfortable with that at all.
Well, again, to me, this is a weird thing. A week ago, we were talking about the Astros reliever that just got signed and the baggage that went along with it and the right to play in the meantime and whatever. And it's funny now, and I'm not picking, but it's funny now we're talking about a coach who hasn't been convicted of anything, who the process is going on, who now he should be banned for essentially the same. I mean, that's a nuanced line of where we go with this.
Let's just say that Urban talked to him about it, and the coach denied it. And there's no.
And let's assume then that Urban also told Gene Smith, and then no one else has done anything about it.
Then what is he supposed to do at that point?
I don't know. I mean, that Gene Smith should be held accountable too, but he also is very powerful in the NCAA. He's on the basketball tournament committee. I mean, he may be untouchable too. I mean,
is there really anybody untouchable at Ohio State? Because you look back on this, Tressel didn't keep his job. Woody Hayes didn't keep his job.
Well, and Tressel didn't keep his job for basically the same thing, knowing about something and lying about it.
Although he didn't report it. What we don't know is that box to check
and he specifically tried to keep it from being
right.
I mean, he obstructed justice to twist into another. He clearly obstructed justice in that one, and that got him. So the question here is, if Urban knew, did he follow the right channel? If he followed the right channel, I think
how could Urban possibly know for sure whether this occurred or not?
Oh. Okay, Courtney Smith is texting Shelley Meyer all this stuff.
Right, but how do you know she's telling the truth?
With the pictures, and I think there's way too much circumstantial evidence.
Did his wife see the pictures?
Well, I think that was in the text. That it was verified that she did.
See again, I think it's really hard because there are so many things that go back and forth among groups of people that if you and I went with every time you heard that somebody did something or somebody did something to somebody and then acted on it, I wouldn't be able to associate with anybody. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about that, but there are an awful lot of things that fly around that are.
If Urban Meyer did cover, okay, I'm not saying we're buddies. We haven't talked in years. Right. He was at Florida last time I actually talked to him. But he's got daughters. I don't believe for 1 second he's indifferent about domestic violence. I don't buy that at all. If he's covering at all, it's because the coach is Earl Burst's grandson. Period.
Yeah, and I think that plays a lot into it too.
He loved Earl Burst. He loved Earl Burst like a second father. He loved Earl Burst. So if there was, it's not because of domestic violence. It's because his grandson Earl Burst. I don't know. It doesn't likely change anything, but I just want to throw that out there because those who hate Urban Meyer, and I'm not looking at John, paint him as some kind of soulless deviant that doesn't care anything about anybody other than winning.
But he did have 53 arrests on his Florida teams when he was down there too. Not saying he's a bad guy.
He didn't do it.
Well, no, but you bring in those kind of guys, and he had Aaron Hernandez down there, and came flat out and said, after he murdered somebody, I kind of looked at the unsolved murder down there, and thought, you didn't know what kind of guy Aaron Hernandez was when he was on your team?
I don't think anybody knew Aaron Hernandez was capable of doing what he did.
My comeback to that is, okay, so Bob Kraft didn't know either, and a bunch of people in the Patriots organization who not only drafted him, gave him a big again, this is a slippery slope. People don't make those decisions knowingly and give people that kind of money thinking it's that bad, okay? Right. The fact that the guy's a thug, but where's thug? Ray Lewis is in the Hall of Fame.
That's something else. I got to take another time out. We'll come back and continue on. It's for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.
Matthews Ford Oregon is the dealership that makes a difference because we now offer guaranteed credit approval. We know what's on paper doesn't always reflect the person in front of us. That's why we work with over 40 lending institutions every day to help find solutions, and in some cases, we've been able to help folks looking at pre-owned vehicles drive away in a brand new one. Remember, we're here to help, not to judge. Ride on our reputation as the name that's been trusted since 1952.
That's the Matthews way.
Hey, Mortgage Marty here from Fairway Mortgage. New office is open at 5577 Monroe Street in the Promenade Shops. And those of you that watch know how competitive I am. So here's my challenge. the large national company you always see at every sporting event from up north who has that Rocket app that I hate. We have a competing app called the Fairway Now app, and the best part of the Fairway Now app is you get actually somebody local to help you after you use it. So log in, try it. It's on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find us, the Fairway Now app. Have a great night.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Howard Arm Wrestling is back in action in Toledo on Sunday, August the 26th at 5 p.m. at St. Clemens Hall, 2990 Tremainsville. PBW World Champion The Bachelor Ben Boone defends the belt against Unchained Brandon Day. You'll also see Righteous Indignation and the Circus of Pain battle for the tag team titles. Get your advanced discount tickets now at pbwexcitement.com. It's the best wrestlers in the Midwest, Sunday, August the 26th in Toledo at St. Clemens Hall. Welcome back for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's, Norm Wamer, Big John Milkowski, Marty Ben. Whenever some story like this happens, the spin of it becomes amazing.
Well, especially with social media now.
I saw a story that said that Urban was just doing this to try to get a bigger buyout.
Yep.
And that is so asinine. I don't know where to go on that one, because first of all, he doesn't need the money. All right. Second of all, if you know anything about Urban Meyer or have ever talked to him, Ohio State was his dream job. He told me that when he was at Bowling Green. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had it in his contract that
all the way through
Ohio State,
Notre
Notre Dame.
Correct.
Those were the three.
Everywhere he went, from what I know,
Yeah.
he had that written in.
Because there were a couple Notre Dame rumors along the way that were just as important as the Ohio State one
The
later.
fact that I grew to like Urban Meyer and I'm an Ohio State fan, it's dumb luck that they ended up in the same place. But yeah, if you know anything about Urban Meyer, that is the most ridiculous story in the world. Because if he gets let go, I don't think he'll coach again. I really don't.
Well, I didn't realize he's only 54. I thought he was a lot older than that.
Same age.
Yeah. See, I thought he was a lot older than that, but.
See, I think he loves doing it. I don't agree with. I think if this doesn't pan out, he'll be somewhere else and not very long.
Well, from what I was listening to sports talk radio and kind of engaging what's going on, it doesn't look like he's going to get fired now.
Well, okay, so you hate him. We established that in the first segment.
Yeah,
so if you were the judge and the jury, would you fire him over this?
I don't
Take
know.
yourself out of the Michigan side. And I believe you can do that because I've known you a long time. I don't
Right.
think of you as the fanatic fan. I think of you as just a.
Well, sometimes.
I don't think of him that way. He might.
There's been a couple of Twitter likes from this guy that I've gone, no, I'll let it go.
No, see, I don't know, because at first, yes, I was, if he knew and didn't report it, you have to, especially when it's written in his contract that if you don't, that's a violation. The more that's come out and the more it's gone, I think he'll probably end up being suspended, which is probably what should happen. I mean, and everything it's always first blush, okay, it happens right away. What does everybody think?
The first reaction is almost always an overreaction in any direction.
And then you give it time to simmer down, and you hear all the facts, and everything comes out. I am a little not concerned, but that Courtney Smith's lawyer came out and said Ohio State has never talked to her. I mean, at once, even now in these last 4 or 5 days, this last week since this has come out. I mean, how do you investigate this and not talk to her? I mean, that seems like job one for this independent group.
See, I couldn't disagree more on that. That's the criminal investigation. The question here is who knew and who did what, and did they follow the terms of the contract? I mean, there are two separate, and that's what I think we're getting distracted about on this. The fact that Jerry Sandusky's in jail to me is a champion to the system working at least on that side of it, because he was convicted of the crimes he committed and he's serving the rest of his life in jail. Whether he did that and then what everyone else knew and how everybody else did it, they're sort of connected, but they're not really the heart of the matter here. There are two separate things going on.
One of the things that's really interesting to me is, and I agree with John, is that if Urban Meyer did not report this, then if he gets fired, he gets fired.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to argue that part at all.
And the question is, if he did, I mean, shouldn't it just been as easy as, yep, here's the email?
Well, here's the thing. How many other people, if he did report it, how many other people know, other than Gene Smith, if he did report it or not?
Well, but
And is Gene Smith going to try to, let's say he did report it, and the only one that knows he reported it was Gene Smith, and he didn't do anything about it. And he did know what was going on, or he didn't investigate it. Is he going to tell the truth and say, well, yeah, he did report it and I didn't do anything about it? Or is he going to try to cover his own behind?
Well, and that may be why this investigation is taking so long, because, again, if he sent Gene Smith an email or, a phone call and said, hey, this is what's going on, that should be pretty easy to figure out. I mean, a school like that, I'm sure, keeps emails. I mean, they could just go find an email and say, yep, here it is. See, I emailed Gene Smith right here on this date and said this is what's going on.
Maybe it doesn't come to that, but that's kind of in the back of my mind.
It's CYA in a lot of places.
So you're saying one of the two is in trouble?
Well, it depends how much they knew.
Oh, I mean, and I agree with Norm on that.
If it was a he said, she said, nobody talked to the victim.
And even now,
but the other side of that is, so somebody calls the police department and says, "What do you know about this?" And they say, "Nothing. We investigated. There's nothing there."
But
if somebody makes that call, is that? And I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying, but if that happened, do you feel the same? Let's say he told Smith. Smith turns it over to somebody at the university. Somebody at the university calls the police department there and says, "What happened? We went there. A lot of he said, she said. Nothing there. A lot of smoke, no fire." Okay. Right. And I'm not saying that we think that was right, but at what point in time is that what somebody should have done in that case?
Then I go back to why isn't he in jail? So that's where we've gone full circle now and go back to that.
But even now, wouldn't you want to talk to her and say, okay, show me what you've got, show me with what you texted Shelley Meyer, what you dates and times.
That's all.
They have.
I don't think they need to talk to her. They don't need to talk to her to get that information. That information's out there now.
But I still think you have to talk to her. I mean, you still have to get her side and what has gone on. I mean, even if your only focus is whether Urban reported it, you still have to know what she had.
Well, you remember Roger Clemens' wife was the one that was accepting the steroids.
Well, of course.
She could fall on the sword and say, yeah, I knew it. I didn't tell anybody about it. Because quite frankly, we may not find out exactly what happened.
I don't think anybody's ever going to know.
It's all going to be he said, she said.
Well, the he said's out there. He's been out there with he said.
Well.
All right. Next week we promise more football. More
actual football. Can we talk? At some point in time, it'd be fun to talk about football and not this.
All right. We solved nothing, which makes it a great show. Marty, thank you. Big John, thank you. It is Saturday Night Live coming up next. Don't forget Powerbomb Wrestling coming your way at 2 a.m. You can't stay up, DVR it. If you can't DVR it, you can either get it on our YouTube channel or on Fight.tv. And we'll see you next time on the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's.